Welcome, everyone, to Collective Guidance. I am so grateful that you are here. Today's conversation is going to be one that is just going to bring so much clarity to how to operate in this human experience. You know, we talk on this show a lot about the journey inward, and the moment that you stop building a life that looks good on the outside and you really start actually living one from the inside. And we talk about the nervous system, how to regulate it, about healing at the root, about the spiritual frameworks that help us understand why we're here and how we really create the life that we actually want to be living. And usually the people that come on here, we talk a lot about manifestation and spirituality and inner work. And these people have really been doing the work for a long time. It's their language, it's their home, it's their calling. And I am super excited about today's guest. She is the founder of the Manifestation Method, a leading voice at the intersection of manifestation, somatics, and Kabbalah. She is known for her deeply transformative approach to helping people just break free from anxiety, self-doubt, the subconscious limitations that we have to create an aligned, expansive life. She is blending ancient spiritual wisdom with modern psychology and nervous system work. Ayelet teaches that manifestation is not about thinking positively. It's about becoming someone who can actually hold what they desire. And her work guides clients beyond surface level mindset shifts into true embodiment and transformative lives where the mind, body, and spirit just everything feels aligned. Through her teachings, it's a signature teaching that she has created. She supports individuals in rewiring their internal patterns, regulating their nervous system, and stepping into the power that they are conscious creators of their reality. She's the host of the Manifestation podcast, which I'm probably going to keep referring back to the last two episodes that she did because I want to listen to them over and over because it just like, it kind of turned me on. I know that's a little like weird, but if you listen to me regularly, you know that I get turned on by things. And she's I think at like 163 episodes, and she leads a global community through her membership, live workshops, immersive coaching experiences, where thousands of people come to heal at the root and create lives that both feel expansive and deeply grounded into their soul knowing. Ayelet Polonsky, thank you so much for joining me and coming on here and diving into this deep practice that you share with others. And I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much, Charla. What a beautiful introduction. Now I have to perform. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be myself.
But I was going to say, I think that after I've listened to a lot of your podcasts because I love to study and get into the energy of the people that I am co-creating with on this podcast. And it's natural for you. I feel like you are completely downloaded with knowledge that you are spitting coming through. So thank you so much for joining me. I want to start at the beginning because you did something that I've always wanted to do. You did this at a very early age. You picked up your life from New Jersey. I love that you're a New Jersey girl. Shout out to the Jersey girl.
That's
yeah,
right.
My best friend's from Jersey. So you picked up your life at a young age and you moved to India. And then you went to Israel. Give me a short snippet about that journey and how did you live in an ashram for 6 years? Tell me about this real fast.
Yeah. Okay. So real fast, I could sit here and give you like story upon story for hours, but I'll give you the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah.
When I was 20, I had lost a friend of mine in a motorcycle accident.
Mm,
And her passing was my initial spiritual awakening. Prior to that point, I was a teenager. I was living life as though I was eternal. I was going to live forever. What was important to me was super superficial. And her passing, I remember when I found out the news that she died, I had this like voice come to me and it said, Ayelet, you've been alive for 20 years, but you have not yet even begun to live. Start now.
mm,
And it was like what came over me was just this sense of every day is a gift, right? And how do we make the most of it? And I was like, I need to understand why I was put here. What is the meaning of life? What is my purpose? So her passing led me to Barnes and Nobles, to the self-help section, and a book called Buddha literally fell off the shelf as I was walking by. So I took that as like a sign from spirit. I mean, in hindsight now, I can say it was a sign from spirit. At the time, I was like, oh, cool, I'll take that as a sign. And then just started digesting book after book after book, mainly a lot about Eastern spirituality, yoga, meditation, Hinduism, Buddhism. So fast forward 2 years, and I realized I had reached a glass ceiling. I had digested all of the knowledge that I possibly could have for that period of time. And I was like, there's something more. I need more. And so through a series of divine intervention, I had met someone who introduced me to an enlightened master at an ashram in India. I had a dream where the guru, the master, came to me in the dream and told me that it's my time to meet him in person and that I'm meant to go on a journey with him, and I'll see why, but I just need to book a trip and go. So I sold thousands of dollars worth of designer purses. Got on a plane at age 22, went to what I thought was like a 21-day yoga meditation retreat. It was so much more than that, right? The essence of what is learned at that ashram, aside from Eastern spirituality and Hinduism, is manifestation. And so
mm,
I was hooked. The historic pain in my body, the trauma, I didn't know what to name it then, but I was like, oh, there's finally a solution to my pain. And so after 21 days, I flew back to New Jersey and packed my bags and went back to India. And, just to clarify, it was 6 years on and off. I was coaching and leading retreats. And so that's how I would financially support myself at the ashram. But I was in and out of the ashram for a large chunk of 6 years. Okay, so fast forward to the tail end of those 6 years, and I attend what is considered the largest festival of consciousness on the planet. It's called Kumbh Mela. Um, Kumbh Mela attracts 50 million Hindus. It takes
wow.
place every 3 years. It's like Mecca, but for Hindus, right? It's like there's a promise of enlightenment. You go to Kumbh Mela, you dip in the river, you become enlightened. And so I was like, where do I sign me up?
Yeah.
And so all the enlightened masters throughout India attend Kumbh Mela, and there's just thousands of camps everywhere. So imagine like 50 million Hindus. And here's me, Jewish girl from New Jersey.
Yeah.
Uh, and so my teacher's camp, so there's a bunch of camps. And so my teacher's camp, we were 10,000 people. So I'm just going to kind of paint a picture for you. Imagine this massive, massive, massive structure holding 10,000 human beings. All of us were given 30 minutes to take a break, and we were exhausted because we were doing really rigorous, like mind body exercises. And so we were tired. We were like, we're taking a nap. So all 10,000 of us, you see us like curled up in a ball, napping on the floor of the tent, waiting until our next meditation session. And I use my backpack as a pillow. So I'm laying there in this massive structure. And all of a sudden, I start to hear this loud banging noise. And so I open my eyes and I'm like, am I asleep? Am I still dreaming? Am I in like the liminal in between space? And the noise just gets louder, like bang, bang, bang. And Next thing you know, and this like woke me up fully, I was not in a dream. The walls of the tent, which was made out of some sort of canvas material, start ripping open and water starts flooding into the structure. And you see, I look up and the metal poles that are the kind of holding the structure together are starting to rattle. And that's when we all 10,000 of us realize, okay, we're not in Kansas anymore. We are not dreaming. We are in a very real cyclone, tornado, natural disaster. Within seconds, 10,000 people start running towards two tiny little exit doors. And I'm looking up and the structure is about to collapse. And I said, if I get in line and join the stampede, I'm dead. I'm done for. So I thought quick, plan B, I slid under the foundation of the tent because at this point the floor it was dirt. So everything's becoming like mud and wet. So I was able to kind of dig a little hole, slide under, and I find myself outside of the tent and I'm covered in mud from head to toe. And there's like debris flying everywhere, metal poles flying. It was just like, if you've seen The Wizard of Oz, you know, the opening scene of The Wizard of Oz, like it was crazy. It was crazy. And people are running and screaming. And anyways, needless to say, we were in the middle of the desert. So there was no stable structure for safety. So ahead of me, I see a massive transportation truck. I slide under the truck and I am like begging God for my life. I'm crying. I'm shaking. My whole nervous system is wrecked. There's no meditation. There's no amount of meditation that can prepare you for a near-death experience, right?
Yeah.
So my eyes are closed and suddenly I hear a voice coming from my right. And every time I tell this story, I get chills because I remember it as though it's happening right now. And I look over and this elderly woman with piercing blue eyes like yours, right? She looks me in the eyes and she goes, "Don't be afraid, darling. At least if we die with our guru." And first thing I thought to myself was like, lady, you are out of your damn mind. Like, I didn't come here to die with my guru. I came here to become enlightened, right? And then, you know, maybe you equate death and enlightenment to being one and the same, but for me, I still have a whole life to live. And so I took 6 years worth of manifestation, embodied wisdom, practice, knowledge. And in that moment, I was just like in the frequency of knowing that I was going to be okay. And I said, dear God, if you're listening, I need a miracle. I don't know where I'm meant to go, what I'm meant to do, or how, but I am surrendered to your divine guidance. And then I had remembered being a little girl and my grandfather, who was born in Iran, but lived in Israel most of his life. He used to say the Shema prayer, which is the prayer that acknowledges the oneness of the creator. And so I was like, all right, here goes nothing. And I just cover my eyes and I go, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And within 30 seconds, everything got quiet. The tornado stopped. And I was just like, wow, that worked. I'm not saying I'm powerful enough to control nature, but.
Oh, I like to think I'm powerful enough to control nature. So I'm going to give it to you too.
I just don't want to admit that online, you know?
I will. I'll do it for both of us. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay. You get the credit for that. All right. And so remember, I uttered the words out loud. I don't know what I'm meant to do, where I'm meant to go, or how, but I am surrendered to your divine guidance. And so I allowed. I created a space. I got out of my own way and I was like, show me the way. And it was a couple of months later that I was sitting in a meditation in India, doing my manifestation practice, my visualization. And this voice keeps coming in, interrupting my flow. And I keep trying to push the voice away because I thought it was just the monkey mind, right? Comes back. I push it away. Okay. It comes back and I'm like, okay, this voice is bigger than me. This is the voice, this is like the still small voice of my soul. This is the voice of intuition. This is the voice of my deeper knowing. And the voice said, Ayelet, you've exhausted everything you need to know here. Leave this country now, go to Israel, and never look back. Within 30 minutes, I had my flight booked. I'm crazy like
No,
that.
I mean, I'm the same way.
Right. It's like when you
Spirit
know,
tells me
yeah.
to do something. Spirit tells me to do something. I do it. I don't question. I do it.
Right. And if we do question, it's just going to knock us over the head and show us in all these other ways that we should have done it the first time around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, so I got on a plane the next morning with no plan, nowhere to sleep, no idea what I was doing. Right. It was like the Jews leaving Egypt. They were just told go and they had no GPS system. They didn't know what was next. Right. So I had left 6 years worth of relationships and community and devoted practice to go to a land that was going to be shown to me. Right. Like Avraham is like, go leave your land and go to a land where I will show you. It's like, show me, show me, show me the way.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I called up a friend who was living in Jerusalem, and I had no intention of being in Jerusalem. At the time, I was like, all religious people, that's not where I want to be. Take me to Tel Aviv. Right. So I called a friend who was born and raised in Jerusalem, a friend of my family's, and I said, I need a place to sleep. I'm like landing in however many hours. What do I do? And my friend goes, oh, well, that's ironic because I just left Jerusalem a week ago and got an apartment on the beach in Tel Aviv. I have an empty bedroom with your name written all over it. Come stay as long as you need or free. Right? I call that a forehead kiss from the divine. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
listen, your reality literally reorganizes itself to show you the way. Anyways, needless to say, a month after that, moved to Jerusalem, took the first apartment I found, started learning Torah and Kabbalah and Judaism, and realized that everything I was seeking and searching for in Hinduism and all the other isms was really like all right here in my own backyard. So cool because I really always just kind of saw the religious aspect as this like weird. It just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. But when you start learning from the inside out, you see the depth, the mysticism, the divinity in it.
Mm-hmm.
5 months after I started learning, I was sitting in the cafeteria with 5 of my girlfriends, and I declared out loud to the universe, to the creator, I said, Hashem, God, if it is your will, my intention is to be married by May of this year or something better. I met my husband 21 days after setting that intention, declaring it out loud. And I said, May of this year, something better. Our wedding date was May 29th of that year. So
And
that's,
so this is almost your anniversary. Happy
yes,
anniversary.
thank
That's
you. That's
exciting.
right. That's right. It'll be 8
Yeah.
years. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's a great lead in to manifestation. So manifestation has become one of those words where like, people are like, oh, I'm manifesting this. And they think that with manifestation, they think that they can just do the vision board or, the 333 method or positive affirmations. And they're still not seeing results, right? Manifestation really dates back to ancient times. And it's not really manifestation as much as it is co-creation. And Kabbalah teaches us that if God created us, then we are God. So, I mean, you're the expert on manifestation. Tell me, what is manifestation? Like, really dive into it for me,
Mm-hmm.
for people to understand.
For sure. So let's kind of like rewind a little bit and take this into like biblical spiritual wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I think part of the issue with like new age manifestation, there's a lot of truth to it, and I'm not knocking it, but I
Yeah.
think it's only a half truth, right? Because it doesn't really incorporate the fact that like God is the one manifesting, right? And what is our role as, like, I love how you said, it's not so much manifestation, but it's co-creation, right? And so we learn that Kabbalistically, we are made in what's called B'Tselem Elokim. We are made in the image of God. which means that we all have within us a God particle. Right. So if we are made in the image of God and God is living, breathing through us, God is not some entity out there that is puppeteering this whole dance that we're dancing down here. God is literally infused in our cells, in our breath, in our bones, in our consciousness. We are one and the same. Right. And so if we understand that that God created us as a microcosm of this macro force, and God is the ultimate creator, like we call God the creator. So if we're made in the image of, that must make us co-creators, right? Which means that if we are in alignment with our deepest desires and we are living from a place of, when we're living on purpose, meaning we're living from a place that vibrates on the frequency of our soul. What does our soul long for? Not what does the construct of our ego want, although we can manifest from there too, right? But like the deepest fulfillment comes when we're living in alignment with our soul's purpose, right? And so from that perspective, it's like when we align thought, speech, action, we create coherence. It's not just, I think, I want, but I am, because we don't manifest what we want. We manifest what we are. So we become the frequency of what it is that we truly long for. What is our deepest longing? And we start embodying that as a vibration, right? What happens is we start coding. Okay, we'll get a little bit quantum-y for a second because you referenced my 2 last podcast episodes.
Yeah, and I love them. I love them. It was so good. It was like Joe Dispenza, but 10 times better. I was like, this bitch has it going on. I'm like, yes, preach to me, sister.
Well, you're so cute.
So go.
So if Joe and I had a baby, right? That's what if Joe and I had a baby, then it'd be like quantum Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so by creating coherence, meaning we know what we want. So it comes in through the higher sphira, the higher sphere on the tree of life, which is called Keter. So it comes in through the realm of idea. It's a spark. It's a seed. Okay. Then it works its way down through like the right hemisphere of the brain, which is Chokhmah, which is where it starts to, like, the mechanics start to get a little bit more clear. What is, like, can this be mine? Do I really want this? What is it I want? Let me start to bring it more down into the form of thought. And then we bring it into Bina. We're going through a few spheres on the tree of life.
Okay.
Right. We bring it down to the sphere of Bina, which is where we start to actually build the thing, right? We bring it into the world of action. And so as it trickles down through the sphirot, because we are a microcosm of the macrocosm, and God created this blueprint through the sphirot, through the tree of life. And so as above, so below. So we're like a microcosmic tree of life. We start to take all of what it is we are thinking about and desiring, right? So the desire lives up here in like the higher realms, and we bring it down into the level of body, right? Which means I'm now feeling as though I have what it is I desire, as though it's already mine, right? By doing that, we create we create brain heart coherence, like heart math, right? We create coherence. That coherence becomes a frequency, a vibration that starts to code, literally encode, like we are computers, we're computer programmers. We're encoding this energetic sphere that exists around all of us called our electromagnetic field, right? And so we all have about up to 6 feet around us, our own electromagnetic field. And there are cameras that show this now. So it's not woo-woo. This is backed up.
Science. It's science.
It's science.
But Kabbalah told us about this way back when. I mean, like it's written. So this is ancient knowledge that scientists have discovered.
Exactly. So it's an ancient spiritual technology. And what I love about it is it's always existed in the quantum, right? So our masters were just like channels pulling from the quantum, because the quantum holds infinite information at all times, right? So just pulling what already exists, and then it starts to get translated into modern day technology. But we were the one of like the first that were able to pull and create a spiritual technology out of this information. So what we're essentially doing is by creating coherence, by coming into alignment and feeling our desire as though it's already ours, we're taking this electromagnetic field that surrounds us, which is basically just it's information. It's
Mhm.
sacred geometry. Okay. And so we are reorganizing that information in our field according to our vibration. Right. And so what I love about it, if we look at the word electromagnetic, the word magnet is in it. Right. So what are we actually becoming? We are becoming human magnets. By programming ourselves, what we're doing is we're pulling from the quantum or from the field of what's called Ein Sof in Kabbalah, the field of infinite possibilities, and we're collapsing infinite possibilities into one probability, right? Because now we're drawing that towards us and we're putting our consciousness, our focus on that one point, right? Which is why kavana, the word intention in Hebrew, is so important, right? Because it's like it allows us to hyper focus and get clear. What is it we want? You know, how many people come to me and they're like, I want to be rich or I want love. I'm like, all right, well, what does that mean? What does that look
Right.
like?
You
How
got to
can
get
we?
specific, babe.
Yeah. And so like your kavana takes all that information and puts it on like the root of the word kavana in Hebrew is kivun, which means direction. And at the root of kivun is the word kav, which means straight line. So I call it the manifestation tightrope, right? You're taking all the different possibilities of your potential future and collapsing it into like one vision at the end of your tightrope. And you walk towards that vision like your life depends on it. That's manifestation.
And so with that, you created a technique called Abra, which Kabbalah talks about Abra as well. Tell me about your approach on that.
Abracadabra, which we've all seen when
Mm-hmm.
we've gone to a magic show, right? It's like we thought it was just cute magic lingo. But no, it actually has its roots in, like you said, the language of Aramaic, which is Old Hebrew. And I create as I speak. Now, if we take it back, zoom out from a more cosmic perspective or a macro perspective, how did the creator create the world? Through speech, through asara dibrot, the 10 utterances. God didn't mold creation with his hands. God spoke creation into existence, right? And like we said, if we are a microcosm of the macrocosm and God and gifted us with this tool called speech, and human beings are the only species that have speech that can create, right? Animals, they have speech in order to communicate with one another, but we are the creative force in the world. And so speech carries vibrational frequency. And
Mm-hmm.
so to think that speech is just empty air, you're doing yourself a disservice. Kabbalah teaches that every word we utter creates a malach, an angel. And these angels become like your tribe of angels that travel up into the field of Ein Sof, infinite possibilities, the quantum, call it whatever you want. And it starts to compute. It starts to compute according to the words you're speaking. Like I create as I speak. What am I creating through my vibrational frequency of speech? Am I speaking words of possibility? Am I speaking words like I know that this is happening for me? Right? Am I speaking words of optimism and clarity and specificity and alignment and kindness and love and compassion? Or am I speaking in the three C's? I say that, and I'll get into the Abra method in a second, but I think this is important. The three C's that I say block your manifestation are complaining, controlling, comparing.
Mm, preach it, girl. Yeah.
Right? Are we speaking words of complaint? Right?
Mm-hmm.
People think they're manifesting, but they're really speaking in lack.
If you're speaking in words of complaint, that's human. It's human experience. But the awareness, becoming the observer and saying, actually, I want to correct that. Actually, everything is working out for me. I just had a human experience. Yeah. And bringing it back because it's not we're not always going to get it right. Right?
No, we're not. And trust me,
Yeah.
like I'm a Jewish woman. I love to complain. I don't know if I should have said that off the record, but
Well, whatever. No, I get it. I get it. You know, like I get it. I get it.
but
Yeah.
I consciously complain. Right. And so I will have containers, whether it's with my practitioners or in ceremony space, or, maybe even a little bit with my husband, if I feel like that's the outlet. I'm not complaining at him, but to him,
Right.
um, and it's conscious complaining. So it's with the purpose of actualizing or birthing something new, right? It's not just my life sucks and why is this happening to me? That's not the
Right.
type of, right? And so are we speaking words of complaint? Are we speaking words of comparison? Right? Why does
Mm.
that person have the husband, but I don't? Why does that person have the home, but I don't? You're literally limiting the infinite
Mhm.
by saying why them and not me, because you're saying God is not infinite and there's not enough to go around. Right? So that puts us in scarcity, which blocks
Mhm.
manifestation. And then we said control. Right? Am I bracing? Am I white knuckling the steering wheel? Am I feeling like I need to dictate every outcome? And am I creating an experience of anxiety in my system because I am constantly future tripping? Because then we're not creating space for divinity to come in and actually fill our vessel with bracha, with abundance, with shefa. And so what our sages teach us is the actual act of trusting before we even see or can smell what's on the other side. So we don't have evidence. Trust does not require evidence. Trust requires a full embodied knowing that God is always working in my favor. And when we live from that space, what we actually turn our bodies, our systems into is a vessel that reorganizes our internal and our external so that the abundance can come through. And so the Abra method, I kind of broke down just to create the methodology so that we can start implementing this work in real basic introductory ways, although there's nothing about it that's introductory. It's all deep and infinite. And but if we break it down, it's an acronym ABRA. And so the A in Abra stands for ask. Like I said, what is it that we're calling in? We can't just say, I want love, I want money, I want health. Let's get specific. What am I asking for? And not only that, put pen to paper, right? Speak it out loud, but then also put pen to paper. Get it into like dense 3D material because it like locks it in a deeper way. And really important with the ask, we're not asking in language that implies I want or I wish, right? We are declaring, I am manifesting. I am calling in. I am the frequency of abundance, whatever it is. I am manifesting the partner by May of this year or something better, right? So the A is getting super, super clear. The B is about belief, right? We spoke about trust. So there's emuna, which translates to faith, and then there's bitachon, which translates to trust. The difference between the two is that emuna is like, I know there's a higher power, which most people, a lot of people do. A lot of people are like, I know there's a God, but how are we living that knowing on a day to day? Right? Obviously, when things are working in our favor and we check our bank account and a client just paid us X amount of money, we're like, thank you, God.
Yeah.
But like, what are we doing when the guy just broke up with us, when we just got fired from our job, when we sprained our ankle, whatever, right? In that moment, how are we embodying the frequency of faith? So I say, trust is faith in action. It's embodied faith, right? How am I reacting when my son or daughter, right? When one of my kids just like smashes my favorite mug all over the floor? Am I in equanimity? Am I in trust? Or am I getting reactive?
Right.
Right? These are kind of like, this is the GPS system where we.
It just makes me think of my oldest, who is like a bull in a china shop sometimes. Like he had one of my crystal bowls and he's like, I'm going to play this. And he just like smashed it. And I was like, what? what's happening right here? And non-reactive, the non-reactive. Yeah. That the trust that it's okay. It's not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like I said, our external reality starts to reorganize itself when we're functioning from this inner space of equanimity or of trust, And so I remember you're talking about bowls. It was the the afternoon before I was facilitating ceremony, and I open up with a sound bath. And so I took all my
Mhm.
bowls out and I bumped one into another and nicked like the biggest bowl, which is the most
Yeah.
expensive bowl.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And so as soon as it happened, I was like, I had a moment where I was like, that sucks. Like,
Yeah.
I had a moment, but it
Yeah.
lasted all of like 1 second.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it is what it is. It'll be what
Yeah.
it'll be.
Yeah.
And then like a couple weeks later, I'm going through my storage and I totally didn't even know it was there. But in our move from Israel to America, I had a set of bowls there and I couldn't bring
Oh,
them all back with
wow.
me. So I brought back one bowl, and go figure, I'm looking through storage. I totally forgot I had that bowl, and I take it out and it was the same frequency hertz bowl
Mm.
as the one that I had broken. So there you have it. So that's the B. It's the embodied trust. And this stuff takes work. I'm not saying it's easy. Trust is
Right.
a verb. It's a verb. It is not this state that you get to, and once you're there, you're like, I'm enlightened. I'm surrendered. No, sometimes it's a week to week practice, a day to day. Sometimes it's a moment to moment, depending on what you're going through. Right. So that's the B. R is about receiving, and receiving is all about surrender. We're in one of two states at either given moment. Either we are in chronic control or we're in conscious creation, right? We're either chronically controlling or we're consciously creating. So, what inner space are we functioning from? Because conscious creation means that I am not letting myself, I always say, like, white knuckle the steering wheel, right? Because that's chronic control. And by doing that, I am not creating space. Kabbalah is always about vessels and light, which to create a new vessel requires creating space. The same way a woman creates space in her womb to create the greatest manifestation of all time, a child, right? God, in creating the cosmos, created a vacated space and then filled his light into that space in order to birth creation into existence. So there's something really profound about space creation here. And when I think of space, I think, Ayelet, get out of your own freaking way. Get out of your own way, right? It's like when I think that I'm in control, life almost feels like it's collapsing. I'm like
Mhm.
imploding, right?
Mhm.
But when I create space and I relax my shoulders and I invite in breath and I say, God, you get in the driver's seat. I'm coming along for the ride because I'd much rather enjoy the view than drive the car. What ends up happening is things start to just work out in my favor. And I've seen this in my life. I don't even know how many times, like more than I can count. Right. So it's kind of counterintuitive because for those of us who are control freaks, which I have been, and I know what that's like. And when I find myself still in those states, I have to catch myself. Right. But it's like, it's counterintuitive because we think if we don't control every step of the way, then nothing's going to work out. And so that's again where we come back to the B, the belief, the trust, right? Can I surrender enough to know that the universe is always conspiring in my favor? All right.
Mhm.
Then it takes us to the final A, which is aligned action, right? There is no manifestation. Well, I can't say no, but I don't think that manifestation, you're not going to manifest your husband sitting on your couch, vegging, eating potato chips, watching Netflix, and expecting the Amazon delivery guy to be your husband, right? Can that happen? Yeah, it actually happened to my friend. So I'm not saying it's impossible. She's married to him now with kids. It's really cute. But aligned action is where we get quiet enough to hear the still small voice of our soul that tells us this is what I truly want. And then I start taking inspired aligned action, right? Action that feels good, not action that creates burnout, not action that's putting us back in chronic control, right? So our emotions here are our GPS. The emotional world is our GPS. If we are in burnout, if we're overexerting ourselves, we're starting to feel pain in our shoulders, right? That's where I carry stress, is in my neck and shoulders, and that's my GPS. All right, Ayelet, you've gone too far into the driver's seat. Chill out. Go throw your body on Pachamama, on planet Earth, and receive the frequencies of rebirth, death, and rebirth, and let it take away these dense energies and alchemize them into energies of surrender and faith and trust and joy and bliss and all the things. And so aligned action requires a real attunement to one's nervous system, to assess how much God am I letting in to my aligned action
Mm.
and how much action am I taking? And that's a dance. But taking the necessary steps while allowing enough spaciousness for God to show you the way, that's aligned action.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, let's talk about the dark chrysalis phase that you have spoken about. I want to touch on this so people have this insight from you. Can
Ugh,
you share a time in your life where like you were in a cocoon?
right now. You think I'm kidding? No, I'm still in the birth canal, but I'm coming out. But this past winter
Mm.
was deep. It was, when I say dark, I don't mean dark in like a self-deprecating way. I mean dark in that like I had to go deep, deep, deep into shadow, into seeing what I've been suppressing, into seeing where I have been suppressing the desire to use my voice as a woman, where I might have been playing smaller than my capacity, which people listening are like, what are you talking
Mm.
about? Like, you're doing your thing. But right, for me, it was really, really nuanced and profound, and took me into like a place where every single night I'd wake up twice at 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. like clockwork with intense Kundalini activations. I'd have to
Mm.
get out of my bed so as not to wake up my husband, because my body would be like, it was moving so much energy, so much wanted to be birthed. Right. And yet I was like, what is happening? This is so intense. It was heavy, and it was, I had to like I had to move through a lot of it, actually. And so, and it's beautiful. And it's like, I navigate the dark in order to draw out the light, you know. But for me, it was a dark chrysalis phase, in that we all at different stages of our lives will encounter the chrysalis phase many times, right? As we evolve, which God willing, we're always doing. And so a caterpillar, before it becomes a butterfly, obviously goes through a chrysalis, like a cocooning phase. And what I find interesting is the caterpillar is born with what's called imaginal cells. Imagine, right? Imaginal cells. And in these cells are encoded the DNA for the butterfly.
Mm.
So, can we even imagine what the other side looks like? Because when we're born, we are born in our cells with the DNA of potential of who we are meant to become. Right. So it just gives me chills. gives me,
It
um,
makes my heart feel just so open and like I just want to like yeah, so open.
right. Right. But we have to go through a cocooning phase. And in this cocooning phase, what is physically happening to the caterpillar is it is turning into goo. It is totally dissolving its identity. It's going through an ego death, essentially, or an identity dissolution, right? Which a lot of people experience in like medicine journeys, right? It's like an
I did
identity.
that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. It's scary. There's resistance there, because letting go of who I was, which is familiar, it's known, it's safe, right? They say a person will more often choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven.
Hmm.
Right. And so letting go of who you were in order to surrender and free fall into your becoming, that's the chrysalis phase. And so there is a dissolving of oneself and a letting go of who you are, which also sometimes means letting go of certain people who are toxic in your life, right? The caterpillar is not going to stay friends with its caterpillar friends. But what it's going to do is it's going to say, hey, come on, turn into a butterfly too. And to those who are ready to turn into butterflies, they'll join that caterpillar and become the new tribe of friends for that caterpillar, for that new butterfly. Right. And so what the caterpillar is experiencing inside of the chrysalis is resistance. There is resistance. So if we're at a point in our lives where we're in a chrysalis phase, and this is just me giving you a little bit of like empowerment, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not
Mm.
broken. You're not being punished, right? You are going through this because God loves you so much and believes in your becoming, that the pressure is exactly the necessary thing that'll be the alchemizer into you spreading your wings into your butterfly. Right. So the same way olives have to go through pressure to become olive oil in order to be refined. Grapes need to go through pressure to become wine. That's its refinement process, right? It's same with us. We are being refined constantly, and there is pressure because the vessel that we are currently inhabiting is too small. It has to shatter. And that shattering can be deeply uncomfortable. But I promise you, if you just hold on to your bitachon, your trust, your knowing, your faith, and you let yourself trust in divine guidance, right? I had to trust leaving India to get to Israel to manifest my husband, right? So what was on the other side of that chrysalis phase? And it was intense, right? On the other side of that chrysalis was the next identity of being mother and being wife and all the things that came with it. So,
You manifested your husband in 21 days. Real quick, for the person out there that wants to manifest that relationship, what are 3 steps that they can take right now to manifest a relationship?
okay. So step one is put pen to paper. What are you calling in? Get your ask clear and write it in present tense. Right? Step two, write down all the limiting beliefs that are getting in the way of you
Mm.
already having that thing right here, right now. Because it's not enough to want and desire and call in, right? We have to get clear on, where have I been? What are the average person thinks 80,000 thoughts per day? That's 47 thoughts per minute. 80% of those thoughts tend to be negative for the average person, right? So what are the thoughts that I'm allowing in that are sabotaging my manifestation from dropping into my lap right here, right now? Right. So get clear. And then, I mean, I intentionally created what I call hypno activations. I did my own it's a visualization process that is deeply somatic. We feel it in the body because I need it to create coherence. And remember, mind, heart, coherence. My thoughts have to translate into my vibration in order to impact the field. And so these hypno activations, the visualizations, spend 21 days, have a morning ritual, be orthodox about it, be religious about it. Right. And it's a non negotiable 20. This is what I did. Day one, I declared I'm manifesting my husband by May, or I'm married by May. And then I got to work 21 days of a morning ritual that includes these visualization practices. And boom, that's where I would have someone start.
And I mean, I would like to add on to that. If they want to start, they can just like get your hypnosis meditations.
True. Or you can join the membership, and that's where I get to know you personally.
Yeah, and like your membership isn't even that expensive. It's like $27.
26. The
Yeah,
26
26.
is Hashem, is God's number.
Yeah, well, I mean
Mhm.
it equals 8.
Uh-huh.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's $26. They get to work with you. So, I one last question. What are you manifesting currently?
Oh, that's a good question. It's nothing physical. It's not a physical thing. It's like
Yeah.
this portal that I've been in these last 6 months have gotten me to a place of like, okay, who is this awakened woman and what does she truly want? And it's not a thing. It's like she is manifesting an inner space where she trusts her choosing, where she trusts her inner authority, where she trusts in her knowing, where she trusts in her yes, and she trusts in her no, and there's no static or interruption from the outside influence. She listens to herself first, and then there can be negotiation after that. But there's first a place of coming from her knowing and not abandoning herself in order to maintain connection and belonging with others, right? There's like a deep, deep, deep self trust and making decisions from that place and speaking from that place, communicating from that place, and then allowing the world to reorganize itself around this internal realignment.
That is so beautiful. I love that. I love that so much. Your last two episodes on the Manifestation Method podcast were phenomenal. And I, I got to be honest with you. I'm going to probably nominate you for a Webby because it was so damn good. And you guys, one of my favorite things about doing this podcast is getting to meet other people that are doing the work and serving and sharing the message that we are co-creators in this human experience and that we have the right to have everything that we want. We have the right to have everything that we want. So I really appreciate those two episodes. And I mean, all of your information is very good. You did one on IFS, which was amazing. And so people can find you through your podcast, the Manifestation Method podcast. Where else can they find you?
So to access the membership, it's ayeletpolonsky.com, and you have access to a bunch of my courses and hypnoactivations. I go on live every month and do workshops live with everyone and answer all your questions. So that's ayeletpolonsky.com. And then on Instagram, I share tons of free content on Instagram daily. So that's also Ayelet Polonsky. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time and for coming on here and for sharing information. I know that we are all in this human experience to share guidance with each other. And that was such great stuff. You guys, if this conversation stirred something in you, if it cracked something just like open and said, wow, like I never knew this, please share it, like it, go on her podcast, listen to those episodes. I mean, she has 163 episodes. You could just binge her episodes and just get download of knowledge. Send it to a person in your life who maybe they're in a dark chrysalis phase and don't even realize it. I know for me, I kind of went through that from December until not too long ago through relationships. And maybe it's just something that they need to hear and to know that they're not alone. Thank you so much for being part of the collective. And until next time, you guys, keep going inward, keep exploring, and take care of yourself. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Charlotte. Such an honor.